Hey y'all, my name is Mackenzie Lawson and I'm actually a school counseling student. So I wanted to take this opportunity to research substance abuse within the realm of school counseling. Just to start off with a few statistics regarding adolescents and drug use. Drug use claims a life about every 14 minutes, which trumps traffic fatalities. 1.8 million youth ages 12 and up use cocaine. Heroin is the fastest growing drug being used in American high schools, and over half of prescription drug users are between the ages of 12 and 17. According to the last statistics posted by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, 8.1% of adolescents used an illicit drug within the last month. 5.1 used marijuana and 15.2% used alcohol. Alcohol and marijuana are considered the most heavily abused substances among adolescents, according to SAMHSA. Now to consider school counselors in the realm of substance abuse. School counselors are considered educators with a mental health perspective, so that gives us the ability to detect, identify, and prevent substance abuse in the school system. A couple of risk factors that we would want to consider as school counselors are unstable family conditions, social association with other users, low self-esteem, low motivation, negative attitudes towards school, little supervision at home or after school hours, co-occurring mental disorders, and transitional periods in a student's life. For example, the transition from elementary to middle school, middle to high school, or any life-altering events such as divorce, death in the family, or a new child coming into the family. A few indicators to consider that might show that a child is in fact experiencing substance abuse would be a drop in grades, aggressive or deviant behavior, truancy issues, a decline in academic performance, dropout, decrease in social skills, or withdrawal, unfocused or distracted attitudes or moods. And those are just a few. One thing that's important to remember as a school counselor is, and a counselor in general, but especially in this realm, is to not practice outside of our expertise and training. Within the school, brief therapy is very widely used just due to the nature of school and protecting a child's academic and classroom time. But it's important that we know when to help that child, and we know our capacity to help that child, and then when it's appropriate to refer out. So it's important to differentiate between a child that is going through a little developmental experimentation and a child that truly does have a problem. To that end, it's important that we are educating our coworkers, the teachers, administration, of these risk factors and indicators so that they too can be eyes in the classroom and we can truly advocate for the success of a student. Our job is to be an unbiased resource for these students, and we want them to come to us, especially in issues of substance abuse. And then we have the opportunity to collaborate with parents, administration, teachers, and other community resources to truly help them in the best way possible. It's very important as school counselors that we are educated on current drug trends. For instance, one that I read about through my research was something called pharming, Pharming, and that's the act of crushing up prescription drugs and mixing them together and then using them. So as a school counselor, you would want to be equipped to explain to that child the dangers in practicing acts such as pharming. Another important thing you might want to do is have something like a drug slang list, featuring current names of drugs that you might hear thrown around by students, so that you can have your ears open in the hallway, or if you see anything on social media coming from a student, that you can be aware of that and get that student the help that they need if in fact substance abuse is an issue. As we've learned through our coursework, adolescents are starting to use and abuse substances at a much younger age. One study I read reported 20% of the 8th grade population that they were studying using or abusing a drug. So there is a great need for a proactive approach, meaning we need consistent and early interventions. A lot of these children at such young ages, they're vulnerable and are in need of attachment or just survival, love, acceptance, and those sorts of things. And so we really have to take the opportunity to catch them before they choose something else to fill those voids. Most states, including Georgia, have a zero tolerance substance abuse policy in their schools. This is a very controversial issue, as you know, you have to draw a line somewhere. There has to be rules and regulations, but the zero tolerance policy is seen as prevention from students truly getting help because they're afraid to admit that they have a problem or talk to anyone for fear of negative consequences. According to some people, it's seen as punishment instead of actually getting help. For instance, if a child gets kicked out of school or suspended for drug use, there's a good chance that they won't even see the school counselor to get help. So the zero tolerance policy could in fact send them further down into the downward spiral of drug use. I think this issue poses a great need for school counselors to truly advocate on behalf of students. I could see where schools and students would really benefit from having some sort of remedial program for students, even if they are not allowed to attend that school anymore as a consequence, just some sort of follow-up program that school counselors could help head up to really see these students through to getting the proper treatment that they need. A few popular prevention programs and techniques that I found through my research. First of all is the DARE program, Drug Abuse Resistance Education, one of which we're probably all familiar with and might have been a part of. I personally don't have any strong memories of the program, and I know I went through it as a student. And maybe that's because I personally wasn't dealing with drug abuse, but I thought it was interesting that it wasn't proven very effective throughout all the research that I read. Most students considered it to be phony. They considered it to be very extreme, and they were unable to relate. Therefore, it was ineffective. Students assistance programs are popular in schools. It's modeled after employee assistance programs. Motivational interviewing, which is a technique that we've learned about, but that's a great way for school counselors to kind of assess where a student is within the issue of substance abuse. Psychoeducational groups are great to use for at-risk students and students that may be seeking treatment and are able to remain in school. And post-treatment supports groups are awesome. They are considered aftercare in some places. But for a child that has had the opportunity to get treatment, they need to be properly integrated back into their schooling without stigma, without a lag in their academia, if at all possible. Life Skills Training Program is a very popular curriculum, can be found online. It's widely used, and it's a character education program essentially that helps students out of negative situations like substance abuse. Red Ribbon Week is a very popular nationally recognized campaign that I think is a great opportunity for school counselors to take advantage of, just advocating for making healthy choices in regards to drug and alcohol. And it sort of gives schools the freedom to be creative and cater to the population of their school. For instance, I know of a school that was a high African American population, and hip hop culture was huge, and so they took the opportunity to make rap videos advocating against substance abuse, and it was a huge hit within that school and community. Students Against Drunk Driving is another popular organization that many of you have heard of that have different chapters at different schools that school counselors could lead. Character education, leadership skills, integrity, making good choices, making good friends. Those are all very positive attributes that I think are important for students that are dealing with substance abuse to learn so that they can focus on positive areas of their life to overcome their struggle with substance abuse. I think school-wide campaigns that last throughout the year are awesome, just to cultivate a drug-free culture within your school. You could, celebrate and promote this culture through pep rallies, through, having speakers, maybe a recovering addict or a treatment facility employee or a law enforcement official or motivational speaker come. Um, there are so many ways that you could be creative with that, and I think it's a great way to implement drug-free culture in schools. And lastly, parental involvement is a huge thing that is a current issue in all schools, and I think increasing it could be really great for the issue of substance abuse, whether it's having them be a part of your campaigns, your drug-free campaigns, or whether it's having them be a part of um, the rules that are being made in regards to substance abuse for different school systems. I just think having them reinforcing the same sorts of positive moral value at home is crucial to student success. And lastly, I just want to share a few resources with you that I found very interesting. Number one, if you go to the Georgia Department of Education's website, you can find the information on the Georgia Safe and Drug-Free Schools. And this is a really cool grant that the state administers for evidence-based substance abuse prevention programs. And I think this is a great opportunity for school counselors to take initiative and be proactive in creating some really strong programming for their students that are struggling or may struggle with substance abuse. If you go to the website, it gives principles and specific ways that you can implement this grant money and use it towards a quality prevention program. It's very informative. The National Institute for Drug Abuse, if you go to drugabuse.gov, they also have some really solid principles and advice on creating quality prevention programs. And lastly, the most intriguing resource that I found is a new project called Just Like Me. And this project was created through the Center for Creative Development and the Long Island Counseling on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. And they have come together to create an interactive peer-to-peer program that empowers students to make healthy decisions in regards to substance abuse and other important issues. And they specifically use art and self-expression, and they're very focused on self-discovery. And Ron Goldman is the man who is behind this initiative, and I really like what he said, that this is not just a program that is spitting out facts to students and information about substance abuse, but it's providing an opportunity for them to learn for themselves and take responsibility for their actions with other people that are just like them. Essentially, it's a 3-month in-school program that has a whole curriculum to go through. And from what I understand, the first chapter of this organization was just implemented in January of this year. So I personally look very much forward to hopefully seeing more of this, and this is definitely something that, as a practicing school counselor, that I would like to implement upon graduation. And you can find more information on Just Like Me at justlikemeproject.org. Thank you so much for listening.